We first introduced you to Julia 4 years ago.
I think it was 4 years. This is the fourth one I'm doing.
This is the fourth one, so it's 4 years in a row, and it's very nice to see you, Julia. Welcome.
You too, Bruce. Thank you.
Now, Julia is an interesting person. She is 36 this year.
35.
35 this year. Even more impressive. Even more impressive. Age 27, you're driving with your aunt on the way from Durban, and your aunt is saying to you, you know what, I've retired early. You could do that too. You're 27, you're thinking, retirement? Puh, who retires? I've only just started working. But it got you thinking, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my aunt was living such a great life, traveling around. She was still young enough to enjoy traveling and enjoy a life outside of work. And I think she retired at 50. And I thought, okay, that's not a bad goal. Even if you like working, it's good to have the financial independence to choose to work if you wanted to, or where to work, or at what salary to work.
Now, at that time, you were working as a consultant. You were earning 350,000 Rand a year?
I think so.
Yeah, see, I remember these things. You'd saved cash of 60,000 Rand.
Yes.
And your mum said, there's this nice young man. Well, he was young then. It is 10 years ago. This nice young man called Warren Ingram. He's helped me out. You should go and talk to him. You went to go and see Warren, and he said, take your 60,000 Rand, put it into index funds.
Yeah.
And then you made a big commitment.
Yep, and he said, I remember he said to me, you can phase the money in, and then every cent that you save, put it in index funds, and that will grow. And I thought it was highly unusual. I hadn't heard that advice before. We'd always just had cash investments in the family, so it sounded quite unusual to me. But I thought, okay, I don't know why I trusted him. Maybe it was the way he looked, but I thought, okay, this is
it was his youthful baby face looks in those days. Yeah.
I thought, okay, let me give it a go. Let me trust the guy, and let's do it for a year and see what happens. I can always pull out if it's not working, and look at where I am today.
Okay, we don't know where you are today, so don't drop the bombshell just yet. There was 60,000 Rand in cash, but you committed to saving and investing, investing a third of everything you earned. You took your annual salary, you said, okay, a third for tax, roughly, a third for fun and living and breathing and eating and driving and living, and a third for investing. That was the commitment you made.
Yeah.
2008 happened. What happened to you?
Well, yeah, that was a scary time, and I haven't looked at the records, but I'd say I probably invested less than a third. I would have been really scared around December, January. I remember just looking at my graph was going down, down, down. But Warren said continue investing, so I did a bit more cautiously, but I did invest my money, and I think investing during 2008, 9, 10 has paid off now.
It most certainly has. I mean, you've had the advantage of a couple of things. You've had the advantage of having money, of investing that money, and investing that money in the biggest bull market in living memory.
Yeah.
But you invested through the downs. You've continued investing through the uncertainty. And we'll get to how much you're investing, because life has happened in the last year. The last time we saw you, you had a big tummy.
Yes.
You had just done the unthinkable and bought a house.
Yes.
Because you were about to have a baby. Your baby must be nearly a year old by now.
Almost.
How has your commitment to investing changed now that the baby's in your life?
So I still, and as a family, we still have the discipline of saving and investing. So we are still managing to do investments, not at the same rate that I was doing before, but I'm still investing every month. Every month I've made an investment. Not of the same amounts, but I think we're also putting more money into the house, and we've obviously got a lot higher expenses. So,
but that's what's changed. But the point I'm trying to make is, age 27, you had, before you had a child, 9 years.
Yeah.
Which most people don't do, and which is why we like your story so much, to get to a point. Now, over the period of time that you've been investing, up until recently, you've invested a total of 2.3 million Rand of capital. Because you've had some good jobs.
Yes, I have.
Peak earnings, best year? Just over R1 million in a year?
Well, yeah, so now it's the most it's ever been, which is 1.2.
Okay.
Just slight improvement from last year, nothing hectic, but...
Okay, but I mean, you earn well.
Yes.
And there are people who say, this Julia woman, it's irrelevant, because who earns that kind of money? Well, Julia does. The difference between Julia and the rest of us is she has been investing a third of everything she earns. So you bought the house.
Yes.
bottomless money pit last year, you called it.
Yes.
You were right on that point.
That's true. Every weekend we find something to improve, something to do in the garden. We enjoy it, right? So it's we don't resent spending the money, but it does mean that we've got less to invest at the end of the year. I'm lucky that my husband's business has done fairly well this year, so it's offset some of those extra expenses that we've had. And also we just try to be sensible about our expenses. For example, with the baby, somebody told me about a pram set that costs 50,000 Rand.
What?
Which I think, who would do that? If we sold some shares and we could buy a pram for 50,000 Rand, but who needs a pram for 50,000 Rand? So you can still be sensible about how you spend your money, even though you've got more expenses with a baby.
Yeah, no, and it is. Why not have a second-hand pram?
Exactly.
Just saying. So you bought the house, the bottomless money pit. Did you buy the Volvo?
No,
because a lot of parents with somebody buy the Volvo.
Oh, that's very true. No, I'm still with the Etios, and my husband's driving the Corsa Light still.
The Corsa Light's still in the family, because when I first met you, you were driving an old Corsa Light. You were renting a one-bedroom property. Yeah. Then you met each other and you moved into a two-bedroom property, but you still rented. And that gave you the capacity. You didn't have the additional life expenses.
Exactly. I think it was the discipline early on that has meant that now I haven't had to sell any of those savings. I haven't even had to touch our emergency fund really in any way. So I think that's what's set me up, those early days of discipline and saving.
So now let's get to the crux of the matter. This time last year, how much money had you saved? How much money was invested?
It was 3.8.
3.8?
Yeah, that was the total.
And markets have done very little in the last 12 months, Warren Ingram. Zero.
Pretty close to zero.
Okay, pretty close to zero. How much have you added in the last 12 months?
I've added
122,000. That's how much you've added. Okay.
Yeah,
I was filling you in because I've seen your spreadsheet.
You've got an amazing memory, my gosh. Much better than mine.
Yes, you just had a baby. It's okay. And so, in real terms, over the last year, the value of your investment hasn't grown, but you are sitting on capital of over 4 million Rand after 10 years of investing.
Yeah.
Is it where you expect it to be?
I'm not sure what my expectation was, but I'm happy. I'm happy with the trajectory. We've also invested a bit in the house, so we've got some extra money there. And so I think in total, if my plan is still to retire or to be financially independent, I don't know if I will retire, but financially independent at 40, I think I had, or 45. I think 45. I think I'm looking at this and our family finances and our family expenses, and I think at about 45, I wouldn't have to do a job that I didn't want to do.
Yeah, but that's the big advantage. And because you started early, Warren Ingram, you may now talk. I've got you in here now. If Julia never invests another cent and she carries on working and she doesn't touch this 4 million Rand nest egg that she's now got, what sort of growth rate might she conservatively expect to get by her 65th birthday, 30 years from now?
Okay, so your money doubles in the stock market as a good average. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but your money doubles every 5 years as a solid average. So now we need to do some maths quickly.
Okay, but you've done the maths. So tell me what it is in 30 years' time.
I haven't. So we're saying it'll be 8 million in 5 years from now. How old are you then?
45.
45. So 50 will be 16, 55 will be 32, 60, 64,
65,
128.
It's
128 million Rand, Bruce.
No ways. That's without investing another cent.
That's just the 4 million just compounding on itself, earning the dividends that get reinvested, that continue to compound on themselves. And that's not, that's the long-term history of our stock market. Yeah. From 1900 to now, that's what would have happened, and there's no reason to expect it to change.
Now, here is the first one, and there was always going to be one. A privileged white lady with a good education and a high-paying job and saves $1 million. No, she hasn't saved $1 million. She saved $2.3 million. You expect your listeners to identify with her? Come on, Bruce.
Okay, so we get this every single year.
Yes, we do.
And so let's just hit it on the head. So here you've got someone that quite a long time ago could have afforded, just for example, to buy a rather expensive R1 million German vehicle.
Yep.
And quite easily done it. That's what pretty much every South African who earns $1 million would have done. She buys a Toyota Etios.
Mm-hmm. Nice car, safe.
It's got airbags. I think that was the deal, hey, Julia?
Yes. That's
and safe enough for her to drive her children around. She makes the choice. So if you're not earning R1 million a year, let's say you're earning 300,000 Rand a year, the chances are you're probably one of those people driving the smaller German car. Because this market, South Africa, is a huge place for selling expensive cars. And that's my comment here is don't give yourself the excuse of opting out now because Julia earned $1 million and you don't, so you don't have to save. The point is save what you can, save a third of what you earn, and you will also be in a position to be financially independent at the same age. That your lifestyle is determined to some extent by the income you earn. So if you save a third of your income...
But you don't have to save a third. I mean, a third is a great target. It's an awesome target. It's an admirable target. But very few people even save 10% of what they earn. Start with 10%.
And that's why there are, in the world, out of 7 billion people, only 5% of them are Julia.
Are going to retire, going to choose when they can retire, choose what jobs they will do as they get older, choose how they're going to live when they get older.
Yeah.
Not have it forced upon them because they have no option.
I mean, I love the messages that we get after this show every year from the people that say, this has inspired me to do something. And what's amazing is it's working. We get quite a lot of correspondence now from people that have said, I've been listening, I've done this. I've been listening, I've done that. And those are the responses that really, kind of make you smile when you do the show. And I think, the response that you've just got now really makes me grumpy because it's just, I think they're giving themselves...
It's so predictable because people are looking for an excuse. People are procrastinating their way to poverty.
Exactly.
How good is that?
Yeah,
procrastinating away.
021 446 0567 011 883 0702. If you've got a question for Julia, you give her a call and talk to her. There's somebody who lives in Roodepoort, so don't count that against him. His name is Polani. He says, please ask Julia if she'll take on a second husband. I'm available and I drive a Volvo. He's got the Volvo. I think your answer would be no because he's wasted money on a car.
And I have a husband that I'm perfectly happy with.
There we go. But also what is so interesting about your relationship is that when you met him, you were on the same brain wave in terms of attitude towards money. Money as a tool, money for fun. Because you've travelled extensively over the years, you've lived well. You haven't, I suppose you've been conservative, but you haven't wasted.
No, exactly. That was one of the things that was really important to me, to have somebody who has the same values as me when it comes to money. I think it can cause a lot of tension in a relationship. I've seen that happen to people who have different value systems when it comes to money and saving, investing. We discuss everything before we purchase whatever, like a solar geyser. We discuss it. Should we do this? Shouldn't we? We agree. How much are we going to spend? We agree on it. I do most of the investing. But we agree that what we're going to do and rands versus euros and all those things we discuss. And
Larushka wants to ask you about types of investment. Hello, Larushka in Sandton.
Hi there. I didn't listen from the beginning, so I didn't catch the types of investments that Julia made. But I just wanted to find out what types of investments. I have personally invested in property. And I find that I don't really save a lot every month.
Larushka, so your phone line is deteriorating absolutely awfully, and you're investing in property. That's going to get Warren's back up as well. Larushka, she's invested in index funds. The first index funds were the simple ones, the Satrix 40s of the world, right?
Yes, and I'm still doing quite simple investments. I've got Satrix 40, RAFI, FINI, World. Then I've got the
DBX.
DBX World and DBX Euro ones.
Okay, now DBX World, these are Deutsche Bank issued index funds, but they're all in this basket of this thing called the index fund. Explain the index fund, Warren.
So very simply, something like Satrix 40, you would buy the top 40 shares on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. In other words, the 40 biggest companies in South Africa. But instead of buying each one individually, you buy all 40 together in one share. You earn the dividend still, and you own those underlying companies. So it's a real investment. It has a real value, and it replicates pretty much the South African stock market index.
Now, people who are stock pickers, people who work in the active sector, people who manage unit trusts will say, Warren Ingram, you're crazy. Look over the last year, the index has delivered you nothing. We're as active managers, we are outperforming. We may charge you a bit more. The reason you like index funds is because they're a cheaper way to invest, and over a 40-year time horizon or 20-year time horizon, costs erode the ultimate returns you get, and you can Google the impact of costs if you want to go there. But the active managers are having a better time of it right now than the index managers.
Correct, and I think that
the index, sorry, not managers. Index isn't managed. Than the index.
Yeah, the active managers, good ones in falling markets, will often actually deliver better returns, but they're still bad, and so the risk management does play a role there. What you find though is when the markets recover, they typically underperform the index, and if we look at that pattern and as it evolves over 5, 10, 15 years, eventually what happens is if there are 100 active managers today who are trying to do well in the stock market, 2 out of every 10, so 20 out of the 100 will do better than the index.
I disagree with you. I think 15 out of the 100 will do better than the index. I think the latest numbers are showing in times like this, more active managers outperform. But still, you've got to somehow, in the universe of 100 fund managers, choose which one of the 15 is going to be the outperformer.
And that's the danger with something like this, is that the company and the fund that was number one last year or the year before very rarely is number one this year and next year. So just chasing the top performer from last year is often a very good strategy for losing money.
Vivian in Fransfontein. No, hold on a second. I've got to ask this. Where is Fransfontein?
No, it's Kenilworth.
Oh! It's like Fransfontein, wherever that is. Kenilworth. Hello, Vivian.
Oh, hi. If she has savings, Julia, wouldn't it be better to pay off the whole bond of her house? Because they reckon by the time you paid it off over 20, 25 years, you paid 3 times its worth. I'll listen on the radio.
That's a great question, Vivian. Thank you very much indeed. You buy a house for R1 million today. By the time over 20 years you pay off the bond, Warren Ingram, you've paid R3 million. But you're paying R3 million in 20 years' time money, not money now.
And remember, we've got the rock star couple that are never going to pay off their home over 20 years. They're going to pay it off far faster than that. How long are you planning?
I mean, if I sold all my investments today, I could pay it off today, but I wouldn't want to do that. So at the moment, we're putting extra money into the house. I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And I think that's the answer, isn't it? I mean, you would expect your portfolio to give you that 10 to 15% a year. It won't, not every year, of course, but as a good average. And your interest rate is probably going to be around 10.
Something like that.
But if you're paying a bond of 10,000 Rand, put in 12.5 instead, or 15, or 20 if you can, and you will dramatically reduce the period of time that you're paying your bond. So it won't cost you 3 times the purchase price of the property. It'll cost you a lot less. And the odds of Julia's house, I'm sure it's a lovely home. Mm-hmm. Please just don't take this as personal criticism. But the odds of Julia's house in 30 years' time being worth 122 million Rand or 70 million Rand or whatever the number is considerably smaller than the odds of the the investment portfolio being that.
If we look at house prices over the same sort of time frame that I was talking about earlier, they would give you about 1 or 2% above inflation. So if shares are giving you around 6 or 7% above inflation, you're quite right, Bruce. It's not going to go far.
Quick question from Andrew. Andrew.
Hello?
Hello, Andrew. Quick question.
Yes. Bruce, how are you?
Very good, Andrew. Quick question. You're not playing the game.
Yes. I'm a student at UCT currently. I actually want to ask the guys in the studio, is 50,000 Rand enough to start investing?
Yes, it is, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew, because we need to go. Warren, 50,000 Rand. Is it enough to start investing? Next week's topic,
Okay.
How to take 50,000 Rand and invest. How to be Julia.
Julia number 2.
How to be Julia 2. The
Or hopefully
second.
2,000, yeah.
How to be Julia the second.
And
Listen,
please invest that money, Andrew.
Please
you
invest
won't
the money.
regret it.
Okay, there we go. Look at that. The one woman investing sales machine. Listen, thank you so much for coming in. It's really nice to see you. And
Thank you, Bruce.
you showed me a picture of your baby, and your baby is gorgeous. And I'm so pleased that things are going well. And next year, same place, same time.
Perfect. I'll be here.
There we go. And let's look at the power of compounding. Have you signed a prenup with your husband? Asks MM in Midrand.
Yeah, we have. We've done a anti-nuptial agreement with the Cruel, so all our stuff is now pooled, which I think is a fair way to do it, but everyone has their own viewpoint on that.
There we go. Gross or net income? It's gross, Warren. The rule is the third. It's everything you earn. A third
Before
goes to tax.
yeah.
A third goes to tax. A third, roughly, a third to fun and breathing, and a third
to savings.
He's a tough taskmaster. You've survived him for 10 years. Julia, the master saver.
The Money Show.
Small business.
The Small Business